So now is opportunity for further questions and discussion. Please do put questions in using the Q&A, and panelists, let's see if we can have everybody on the screen and have a look at the questions if you want to particularly pick one up to answer, and we will just have a little have discussion with participants through that way. I'm just looking at the questions now. If anyone's spotted a question they want to pick up, or something from maybe from Cash and Melessi's conversation earlier that we can pick up again, this is the opportunity.
Tim, if I can, it's Nick here.
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, everybody. Great discussion and brilliant questions in the chat and the questions box. I've been busily trying to respond to some of them. One of the questions that pops up regularly is how can people from countries outside of our initial focal countries of Ethiopia, Tanzania and Kenya be involved? The only reason that we focused on 3 countries initially was because of manageability with the funding we have. There is strong demand from outside of those countries in the design phase. So we've designed it in a way where the concentrated focus will be on Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, with 3 research fellows in each of those. But then we'll also have 3 research fellows which are floating in the region. So they could focus on either work at a country scale, be it Uganda, Zimbabwe, anywhere, or work at a Pan-Africa scale, for example, with AMCAO or with the African Civil Society Network on Water, to think about the regional implications of accountability for water and potential regional mechanisms for strengthening. So in conclusion, what we'd say is if you're outside of Kenya, Tanzania and Ethiopia, please do work with us. If we can demonstrate strong demand, that's a good justification for getting additional resources and recapitalising this programme in the months and years to come. So be involved. You can be involved in the training, you can be involved in the professional research fellowships and the wider work. It's just that we can't afford to establish the national advisory groups in more than 3 countries at this stage. I hope that makes sense.
Thanks, Nick. Excuse me just a minute.
Tim.
Yes, go ahead.
I seem to have answered all my questions to the individual who posted them, so I'm not sure now. I don't see them, the questions.
Okay. Was any of that? Did it raise any thoughts that you think would add value to the whole whole group, or anything you felt like you could have said earlier that?
Some of them were country specific. You know, they were asking about volunteers and the role of media. I think like one question was in the closing space, how would you navigate around a lot of media and critical subject on accountability? And my answer to that one, you know, you have constructive advocacy and good evidence, but also you don't write politics when you talk about water. And for water, it's a noble topic, so they won't take you to jail if you write about water, even if it's about pollution in water. Yep.
Thank you.
I think that was the key one. The rest were country specific.
Benji, are there any other questions that you've spotted in the chat that we can pick up?
I think, Tim, there is a question. I think it is indicated that it was answered live, but I'm not sure it was, from Nancy Kadeni, on the question whether, I think she means whether someone is has an ongoing PhD or master's, whether he or she is allowed to apply for the fellowship.
Who wants to pick that? Should I take that? Sorry, I don't want to do all that. Yeah, the issue is whether you, in all cases, it's basically, do you have the capacity and the support of the institution that you're associated with to pursue it, and that we can manage the arrangement. So very possibly, I think would be the answer. They should get in touch, let us know exactly what the situation is, and we can we'll take it on a case-by-case basis.
I think, Tim, associated with that, we have James Letten, who asks what the conditions for host organizations are for hosting the PRF.
So the crucial thing with the host organizations is that they are committed to the research, to finding out the answers that the research is going to be looking at. So they're going to devote, a member of their staff is going to be devoting some time, about a day a week over the course of the program, to delivering this research. So the host organization will be expected to support them in terms of making sure their time is liberated to do the work, and with logistical support in terms of using in ordinary day-to-day office resources to do it, but the program does include research expenses, and the host organization would receive some support for the time that would be the staff time that would be lost. So it's about primarily the expectation to the host organization is to support the program, and and there will be the costs. There is a cost in terms of time, but it will be compensated through the research grant.
Tim, I was going to just suggest, would it be possible to put the call for partners and professional research fellows into the chat box and also the flyer? Because I think that would answer several of the questions. I
will try, and also, if people are happy, I don't know if I can ask the entire chat box, but we can always send that through on email to people who are attending. I guess if you don't want me to send you a follow-up email, then type that in the chat box, and I'll take you out of the list. Otherwise, I'll just send it down.
Tim?
Yes, I am.
Someone is asking in the chat box, said, kindly explain the link between the specific research topics suggested by the fellows and the multi-country study mentioned earlier. I'm not sure we've responded to that.
Mm. So the plan for a multi-country study is, in addition to the specific research areas that the research fellows will be looking at. So we'll be developing a research question that looks at either with surveys. We've had to redevelop it slightly to see how it works with COVID, but to gather kind of cross-country information. So that's one part. The other part is when we know what research fellows are doing, then we will be looking for thematic linkages between them. So we're not pre-cooking that. We expect that there will be linkages between the different areas of research based on themes, whether it's challenges of closing space, or of the role of donors and how they can support legitimate advocacy work. And so we will be looking for those linkages, and then developing that into cross-country reports, drawing on the outputs from the research fellows. So again, it's about trying to translate the findings into useful, action-oriented knowledge. And to which end, this is why having the learning partners that we mentioned at the beginning is so important. If you're a donor or an organization who want to know about how these findings or themes can be addressed, then we want to make sure that you're with us from the beginning, guiding us in the direction that we take those analysis, and being really proactive in terms of making sure that what we produce is of high value across the sector. I hope that answers that. But if anyone else from the panel wants to pick up on that, then just unmute and jump in. Yes.
As the colleagues think where to jump in, I think the whole issue about COVID-19, that question that was asked about COVID-19, at some point, please pay attention to it in the spirit of inclusivity as well.
So, Nick, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just on the cross-country research, when we went to the stakeholders to ask what areas do you need knowledge in, we attempted a categorization of the responses, and broadly they could be organized under, we need to understand the community dynamics of accountability better. We need to know what it is that stimulates and sustains and enables citizens and women and vulnerable communities to raise their hand, raise their voice, and demand better services or governance. And whether accountability practice is equitable and leads to inclusive outcomes, or is it vulnerable to capture by elites? The second area was what do governments respond to and listen to in terms of accountability and advocacy messages around that. So what is it that triggers change within government or governance from an accountability perspective in different contexts? In some places we see a rapid uptake of some of the evidence. In other places we see a sort of conflictual response, and we really need to understand that. And the third area was, well, how do you support accountability practice and systems from an external perspective? Questions about the legitimacy of donor-funded programs when we're really looking at what are political processes in the countries of engagement. How do we deal with the closing space? And how do you resource this work? How do you fund? It's not cost-free. How do you fund and support accountability practice in the long term? And so the cross-country research will probably, and it's to be co-developed with UIO and others, will be to dive into some of those questions at the scale of multiple countries to try and get some reliable answers and insights to those questions. And that will build off and support the professional research fellows. So, sorry, a long-winded answer to a good question.
No, it's great, thanks. Beatrice, I wonder if you're able now to, I wonder if you might be able to get your video on now. I might have figured out what the challenge was. It'd be nice to see you before we close. Yes! But the background's in the foreground, unfortunately. That's the only challenge. You're on mute, Beatrice.
So my background is not good, so I'll just put it off.
Okay.
This is an outline of me. I'm sure the participants can see me looking wavy and nice.
Beatrice, you mentioned another question that we might have missed.
Yes. So Otuori says, "Hi, I was rendered redundant due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but I have been handling water and related issues. Will I be eligible to participate and be a research fellow?"
Go on, Nick.
Yes, I think the opportunity is open to all. The criteria through which they'll be judged will be the relevance of the work, the quality of the proposal, the capacity of the individual behind it, and the likely legacy and impact and uptake of the piece of the knowledge resulting. So that shouldn't exclude anybody. It shouldn't be judged on whether you've got a job now or who you work for. It's basically it will be taken from the research proposal itself.
Thanks. Yeah, like I said before, we're very much going to work on a case-by-case basis. You know, everyone's situation is unique, and the important thing is that we get, you know, really strong and impactful you know, research and proposals coming up. So don't, you know, much better to get in touch and see what we can work out than to write yourself out of the program before we've even had a chance to speak. Rosie.
I just wanted to come in on one question, which is about, which is from Richard Angelo, which is about supporting this research in the context of the shrinking space for civil society advocacy in these countries that we're talking about and in lots of other countries. I think it's a really important question, and we sometimes overlook it when we're looking at sectors like water, which appear to be relatively, you know, everybody agrees that everybody needs water. It seems to be a relatively uncontentious sector. But clearly, sadly, it's been true that over recent years, the space for advocating, even around issues like that, has been narrowing, in some ways changing perhaps for the better, in the sense that people are developing ways of online advocacy, online activism, which we didn't use before. But definitely in general, I think, you know, civic space is becoming a harder place for people to make claims effectively and safely. So on that, I think the way that we have designed the programme, as well as the pre-selection training and the training after selection of those who are actually selected as professional research fellows. As it was mentioned, those fellows will be mentored throughout their work. And I would see a really important part of our mentoring role to be working with the fellows to continually really reassess their context, reappraise what the risks might be to them to do the activities that they have planned to do in that context, and try to help people to navigate in as wise and safe a way as possible those difficulties in the civic space that they're operating in. We've got quite a lot of experience here at IDS in researching together with partners in the civil society sector in lots of countries about what's happening to civic space in those countries. So I feel that we're kind of very aware of those issues, even if it's not us that deal with them on the front line all the time. So to us, that would be a really important part of the kinds of support that we can provide through mentoring.
Thanks, Rosie. Joanne.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. So there was a question about the deadline of applications for the fellowship. I know we've been debating about that, so maybe you can take it, Tim. You're on mute.
So I didn't catch the question there, Joanne. Can you repeat that for me?
Yeah, somebody had asked about the deadline.
Tim, there's a question about the deadline for the fellowships and the training. So
the training, we have extended the deadline. So the training will begin in early December, December 7th. So the deadline is the 29th of November. And so, but please don't wait until then, because we want to, especially if your situation might be more complicated, definitely get in touch as soon as possible and we can discuss it. So yeah, get applications in as early as possible. Deadline 29th of November. The actual research fellowship proposal deadline is the mid-February, and the so there will be, you know, ongoing. We don't have to have finalized every part of your proposal or of how the fellowship grant will work in your case at the very, you know, at the end of this month. We just need to, you know, be in discussion and have you on board in the training and working forwards. So those are the key deadlines, and I'll be in touch with people after this call who've been in touch on email with more information. I've just added in, I was remiss not to have done this at the beginning of this discussion. I apologize to my colleagues, Jesper and Mulligeta, who are the research coordinators for Tanzania and Ethiopia, respectively. I don't know if you're able to join us with your video up. So these are people who you'll be working with in Jesper. Greetings. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
And Mulligeta. So these are our colleagues who'll be leading in the focus countries. Joanne, Jesper, and Mulligeta are the coordinators for Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. Hi. if either of you, Jesper and Mulugeta, if you have anything to add to any part of the discussion we've had already today, as I say, I'm remiss not to have brought you up earlier. Do share any thoughts to help close this out.
Thanks, Tim. I think just a quick one, an emphasis to potential PRFs from Tanzania. I'm aware that they have also joined this meeting. So I'll keep them posted on the official launching. I've already communicated with them via email, but also I'd like to emphasize that they apply, but also they share the information throughout their networks. I think for now, that's what I can say. Otherwise, most of my colleagues and the panelists have said it all. I mean, everything was perfect.
Thank you so much, Jesper. Mulugeta, I'm going to ask you to join us for a moment.
Thank you, Tim. I don't think I have much to add because it has been really extremely very well outlined by all of you. And what I would like to add is that from the side of Ethiopia, there are already some people who told me that have sent their applications to Tim, and I hope within the deadline we are going to have more number of applicants so that we would be able to pick the best one who could do better research, also based on the 3 blocks of trainings that are going to be given online. Having said that, maybe what I would like to add is that the potential professional research fellows who would be involved in the training and who, as Tim was saying, would be certified for having this training on accountability and water and research methods. We also expect them to be part and parcel of the research groups that are going to be established in order to drive the process and agenda of water and accountability in the country. So it's not going to be them attending and then taking the certificates and then disappearing. So there is hope.
Are you able to speak any louder, Mulugeta? Sorry.
Okay. Okay. I was just talking about the professional research fellows who, after having done the training, may not be able to come on board as final professional research fellows to carry out the research. So I was saying, apart from certifying them for the added knowledge and skills, we expect them to be part of the research group that's going to be formed in order to drive the accountability and water agenda in the country. So thank you, Tim. I think that's all I have.
Thanks, Mulugeta. You were a little faint there, but I'm hoping people were just about able to make you out. Right, we're reaching our closing moments now. I'm just going to invite Nick to come up and say a few final words. But thank you. I'll just say now, thank you all for joining us. Nick, over to you.
Thanks, Tim, and thanks my co-panelists here. I've been watching with great interest the questions in the chat box here. It's really exciting because the questions are exactly the right ones, and the topics that you're raising are exactly the topics that we want to help you investigate. So, for example, we've got a question from Arthur about, it's contract monitoring that's important in the wash sector, and how can we strengthen that? We've got a great question from Tiberius about how does government legislation interrelate to accountability, not just in the water sector but more widely, and from Ruben in Zimbabwe about the relationship between freedom and access to information, and how that plays out for stronger accountability. These are all topics that are super relevant to this program. We've got some of the insights and answers in the evidence review that's available via the website, and I think we can send it round, Tim. But these are questions that we want to dive into with you and to explore further, so that they're exactly the type of topics that we're interested in. I want to respond to a question from Misrak. He said, what's the problem we're trying to solve here? Which is always a great question to focus our minds. We all know that there's great water law policy and some very impressive sounding programs out there on water, but they're simply not implemented, and they're not implemented in ways that benefit the most vulnerable communities in the most vulnerable places, and that holds back economic and social progress and global development. This program is about building on the past 30 and 40 years of work in the water sector, which is about reforming laws, reforming policy, building the capacity of duty bearers. It's about helping those rights holders to draw down and benefit from that capacity and that support, and to build the responsiveness between governments and citizens so that water justice is lived out. The other question, challenging question we got from an anonymous participant in Kenya is, it's not knowledge, it's not new policy frameworks that's needed, it's action. Of course, we'd love to be launching a multi-million-pound program of action for accountability on water. I think this knowledge and research program is a precursor to that. If we can demonstrate the full potential, answer some of the unexplored questions, and demonstrate the demand by stakeholders in Africa for work to strengthen accountability, I think we'll be pushing an open door in the next few years for some major investment from donors and governments and elsewhere to enable accountability to be actualized. And so that's the potential we have, and perhaps hopefully want to end on that positive note. Tim, maybe I've missed anything, please add, or Beatrice.
I think that's great. I think if Beatrice would like to add any final thoughts before we close out.
Yes, just to emphasize that the path is usually evidence to action. So you have the evidence, and then that catalyzes action either on the part of policy makers. Why aren't this policy working? So what can we do about them? Is it about revising? Is it about weak institutional structures? Is it about just lack of funding for the programs that we need to get the action? So you must move decisively into this field of generating evidence, because this is the first and strongest building block. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So thank you to all our panelists. I think it's been a really wonderful session, and the questions, all of our attendees, again, from all over the place, really, really challenging and valuable insights and questions. Keep them coming, keep in touch with us. We'll be following up with you. And yeah, I'll repeat from Beatrice's opening that we are just delighted to have the program launched. We can all give ourselves a clap. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your afternoon, rest of your day. Really appreciate you coming.
Thanks. Well done, Tim.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, and bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.